Journey to the heart of darkest Africa on a thrilling adventure with Tarzan. Lord of the Jungle, cruel hunters, and the beastmen of Oprah have abducted Tarzan's tribe of great apes and imprisoned them in cages throughout the jungle. It's up to you to save the apes from being shipped out of their jungle home and into zoos. Now, if that isn't an inspiring epic, then I don't know what is. Tarzan from Out of the Jungle, a 1984 release for the Colecovision, places you in control of the legendary Lord of the Jungle himself as he ventures through his home terrain to save his captured animal friends from humans. Some of them hang in cages in the jungle, others in a single cage guarded by a shotgun-wielding guard thing, and then there's the final challenge, the Temple of the Flaming God, where the last batch of apes are kept, guarded by the fierce beastmen and the Flaming God of Oprah. Wait, hold on a minute. Let me just check something here. That doesn't sound right. Oh, my apologies. I meant to it's supposed to be the Flaming God of Opar, not Oprah. Sorry, my bad. I misread that. We're keeping that all in. I don't care. Moving on. After inserting your game cartridge into your Colecovision and powering up the system, and having to put up with the indignity of sitting through the opening Colecovision screen and the copyright screen and picking one of 4 skill settings, you begin the game taking control of Tarzan, who can run, jump, punch things, climb up trees and poles, and of course swing from vine to vine to avoid the hazards below. Along the way you'll encounter hazardous enemies, but you can either fight them off or escape to the trees above and swing vines. You can stay grounded if you wish, but you run the risk of falling into pits. Every couple screens you need to free your caged friends by punching the cage. Doing so nets you a quick boost of health. Eventually you'll reach the temple where you have to free all the apes while avoiding all the beastmen. Once all the apes are freed, make your way to the top of the temple and with a touch of the keypad, let out your signature howl to bring down the Flaming God and clear the level. From there you begin a new level where you get to do the whole thing all over again, except now it's slightly more difficult and slightly more perilous, but if you persevere, you'll survive and even conquer the challenge before you. Now this is an ambitious little game, which seems an odd thing to say considering how straightforward it might seem, but essentially Tarzan gives you 2 paths to tackle the journey ahead. Do you stay on the ground to fend off the gorillas, the crocodiles, and the snakes? Or do you take to the skies and swing across vines to avoid the terrors below while fending off against the threats above? Each round follows a basic template but has its own layouts. The screen-by-screen aspect is somewhat of an annoyance, a relic of the era I suppose, but the game works around that somewhat and makes the whole thing tolerable. That aside, Tarzan is a bit of a thrill when you can really get into it. Unfortunately, the one enemy that Tarzan has no defense against, and perhaps the one enemy that can impede his progress more than anything in the game itself, is the somewhat unresponsive controls and questionable collision detection. Moving Tarzan around is simple enough and you have a button for jumping and punching respectively, but trying to do anything beyond is not a pleasant experience. Climbing trees is somewhat problematic because you have to find the sweet spot where you can let go and walk on the branches. Sometimes when you jump for a vine, you'll automatically grab onto the tree trunk, and then there's the ugly delay whenever Tarzan throws a punch, leaving him open to attack. Control more than anything is what sinks Tarzan harder than a sinkhole. And that's a damn shame because were it not for this one critical flaw, this could have been an otherwise decent offering. And despite controls being somewhat crap, I still got a kick out of Tarzan. The gameplay is straightforward, it's easy to figure out what to do. You have a couple ways of progressing depending on how adventurous you're feeling. There's a base for something worthwhile and decent to be found here, and it's pretty much cratered by the shit controls. Which is a shame. A damn shame. Tarzan is a somewhat decent looking game, at least by the standards of Colecovision. In regards to the various characters, the only decent looking sprite is Tarzan himself, who at least comprises more than one color and is easily recognizable. The rest of the cast of characters, enemies and otherwise, are simple one color affairs with somewhat jerky animation, though to be fair, this is something to be expected on most Colecovision games. The jungle backdrop looks pretty good with the varied shades of green and some detailing on the tree trunks. The temple looks really nice and is perhaps the best looking screen of the bunch, almost looking like something out of an early generation NES game. All in all, as far as Coleco games go, this one looks alright. Sound, however, is where I have a bone to pick with. Tarzan has this drum beat that I suppose fits the whole jungle theme of the game, but it gets old very quickly and starts to irritate after a good while. There are a couple variations that play depending on the screen you're on, but it ultimately boils down to a classic case of ear rape central and calls for the godly power of the mute button to be put into action. Sound effects are minimal, not worth mentioning, and as far as Tarzan's famous bellow goes, well, it's not great, but they gave it the old college try, and I suppose it's a good thing they included some semblance of that bellow at all. I suppose in hindsight, Coleco should have made an expansion module for the Colecovision that allowed you to use that IntelliVoice thing that gave a voice to Beast 17 Bomber or something. Oh well, a missed opportunity. The strongest aspect of Tarzan on Colecovision, and this could be perceived as something of a backhanded compliment, is that I can appreciate the ambition and the idea behind this game, and I could say that I had something of a good time with Tarzan, but at the same time, I kinda wish I was playing this on a much more capable, more powerful video game system, because a game like this could have benefited from a little more horsepower to make it a bit more playable and perhaps a bit more bearable, which isn't to say that the game as it is now is completely worthless. Like I said, the core elements of the game are sound, you have a fairly good idea of what you're supposed to do, and it's got the essence of the lore nailed somewhat, but there are also aspects to the gameplay, primarily the sluggish controls and questionable collision issues, that keeps Tarzan from being one of the ColecoVision greats, as it were. If control was made more responsive and some issues fixed, Tarzan could have been a standout title on the ColecoVision and possibly inspire more of this type were it done well. As it is, it's ambitious, it's interesting, but not quite the most pleasant thing you'll play on the system. For what it's worth, it's probably worth a look for cheap, but that's about it. By the way, for the 3 people wondering, no, that Oprah thing at the beginning wasn't supposed to be a joke. I really did misread that. And it was only at the last minute I figured I'd add a little thing to sort of... Anyways, that's what happens when you try to dub at 3 in the morning. Later.